Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy. It's me. It's Golden What Ifs. It's Golden Falls, whatever you want to call me. And we're back. We're back with a little unique one of these Isagi What Ifs. It is What If Isagi Was Igo's Son, Part 1. Super excited for this one. I'm going to do something a little bit different, at least in terms of some things. As always, I want to give a quick reminder. I haven't read the manga. I will most likely not be going into the manga. If I do, it'll be way later down the line. I want to give a big shout out to Emeris or Noxtratu, and because he made this thumbnail, so shout out to him. And with that said, I'm not going to waste that much more of your time, and we're going to get right into Jinpachi Igo's son. Let's get it. Yoichi Isagi. Yes, in technicality, he would be named something different. For simplistic sakes, we'll call him Isagi. But Isagi would be born to Igo. But this little relationship he has, this little parent to son relationship he has, is a little different. Isagi was born with the most athletic woman possible. So let's just say Igo tried to find the best woman he possibly could to have the best genes they possibly could have, and out came Isagi. Igo's goal was to make the best striker. He's been thinking about this for a long time, and when he's done with football entirely, he wants to be able to carry on his legacy of football. So that's exactly what he's going to do through Isagi. He's going to make sure that his son is going to be the best striker to ever be seen in Japan. And this would become kind of bad for the relationship between Igo and his wife, or at least the mother of Isagi, and eventually it would lead to a divorce. So he'd become a single dad, and this would allow him to just lock in on exactly what he wants for his son, and that is to have him be the best in football, the best ever. So from the day he's able to walk until years down the line, Isagi begins to train in football to the point that all he wants to do is make his father proud. At least for a long time, he's actually having fun, and on top of that, trying his best to make his father proud. In doing this, it makes him kind of psyched up for the idea of playing football every day. But after a long time would pass, about 12 years, and being that he's now 12 years old, he would now realize that football is the only reason why his father is even around, that he doesn't even really care for him. And now that he's actually working on a new project, a project known as Project Blue Lock, he's not around ever. All he does is leave on the refrigerator and on different spreadsheets exactly what Isagi needs to do for the day. He needs to go to school, and then right when he comes back, he needs to do his workouts, and then needs to do his drills, and then needs to do his pre-workouts or post-workouts, and so on and so forth. He has morning workouts, he goes to school, he works out at school. During PE, he has a strict regimen as well, and even a strict regimen in terms of his meals and eating, so that he could bulk up and get bigger, so he can be strong and be a striker that nobody can stop. And in the beginning, Isagi thought this was great. I mean, he'll be the best at football, and he was at his school. He was absolutely dominant. No one was even close to him, but at what cost did this even take? He no longer sees his father, and on top of that, all he does is eat, sleep, train, football. That's it. So when he would get home one day, he would be frustrated about this. He would continue to train, but eventually he would call up his father, asking, what is he even doing? What is he doing more important than his own son? And Igo would tell him that there is extremely more important things that he's doing at the moment. Extremely more important. He's trying to build something. He's going to make something for him, for his son. He's gonna make something. Blue Lock is almost at a front. He tells him that once Blue Lock is created, it's basically created for him. It's going to specialize in strikers, and he's gonna learn even more, competing against the best of the best, because at the end of the day, iron sharpens iron. And Isagi can truly be the best with Blue Lock. And Isagi initially would be kind of psyched about this, but then a realization would flood over him once again. His father was still putting football in the forefront. I mean, he might be acting as if his son was the forefront and that his son was the more or less reason why Blue Lock was coming. But that's not necessarily the case. Yes, in a way it's true, but it's not for the betterment of Isagi. It's the betterment of getting Japan's perfect striker. He's just being used. Isagi would even bring this up years down the line. He's now 14 years old, bringing this up to Iko, but Iko would deny this and tell him that he's actually going on a bit of an excursion. He's going to be schooling from in different places and from different places, but for now he's not going to give too much information, but he would be heading out to brand new places. And of course Isagi would question what he's talking about. Where is he even going? I mean, seriously. And Ego would say that there's not much to really explain at this moment, and there's really nothing for him to necessarily even worry about. Isagi says that of course he's going to worry about it. I mean, it's his life. And of course, Ego would shake his head and say that he's serious, that he shouldn't worry about any of this. Focus on his training and focus on getting better, because once he's able to be the best, that's all that truly matters. Isagi would shake this off, just being annoyed by this, but a little bit of time would pass, and finally Isagi would be sent off on a plane, a private jet, to a place that is very unknown to him. He would even ask the pilot where they're going, and he says that they're going to France. That it's going to be a nice time, kid, so sit back and relax. But that nice time wouldn't last that long. He would do some sightseeing, but eventually a beautiful car would show up, a car ready for Isagi. He would go in, and when he would arrive at a new place, he would arrive at this apartment of some sorts, and someone else was actually waiting for him. Some guy that he doesn't even know, but he would speak to him, and he would say that he's more or less an assistant. And Isagi would ask, an assistant of who? And he would say, an assistant of the one and only Noel Noah. And he would be completely shocked. Noel Noah? Are you serious? I mean, Isagi has heard about this guy, but this guy's insanely talented. He's heard that he's more or less going to be the best striker in the world, and that is soon to be extremely true. And Isagi eventually would arrive at a field, and there he is, Noel Noah. Noel Noah would explain to Isagi that they have training to do. He's gonna have him for a couple months, and he'll be transparent. He was paid a copious amount of money to do this, and Isagi would roll his eyes, saying that he is grateful. He is very grateful. He doesn't want him to think otherwise, but he just knew this was all about the money. And Noel Noah says that's not necessarily the case, but he just wanted to be upfront with the kid, that's just how it is. But he tells him that he wants to instill in him something that many others don't know, that football may be a test of strength, endurance, speed, but to him it's truly a strength, or a test and strength of the mind, that everything on the field can be reviewed, analyzed, and dissected in a matter of seconds if you're trained enough. Isagi would hear this and be interested once again. His interest in soccer would once again peak, but all he could think about is the reason why he's here. He's here because of his father. That's all it is. All his father wants is for him to be the best striker. Never the best son, never wanting to him have a good life. None of these things. The best striker is the only thing in sight. And Isagi would train with people like Noel Noah, people like Ronaldo, Messi, for periods of time. And he would be out of Japan for a while. And he would train with the best of the best, from strikers to defenders to midfielders, really anybody you can think of that was at the top of the top, he would train with, at least to an extent. all of these training sessions wouldn't be for years long. They would be for months, and then he would go on to the next. It seems that Igo believes that Isagi doesn't need to learn from one person. He doesn't need to become necessarily one person. That's not who he is as a striker already. From the day he started playing football, Igo has analyzed Isagi to the fullest extent. So he believes that Isagi can't necessarily be a Noel Noah just on his own. He could be an accumulation of all of them. Someone like Noel Noah, think like Noel Noah, strike like Ronaldo, anybody like that. And he continues to go down the list to himself that Isagi could do so many amazing things. And eventually he would lead off to the very last person. The very last person he wants to speak with. He would arrive in Italy. And Italy would be an amazing place, a beautiful place in fact. And he would speak with somebody that he didn't know very well, but somebody that interested him, especially after knowing what this man truly was. His name is Mark Snuffy. Mark Snuffy, he explains that he is a man who prioritizes teamwork, strategy, patient playing. There's many things that he believes, but at the end of the day, he tells him that his own ideology is that football is a job. It's a job for him to make money. It's a job for him to live, and it's a job that is meant for them to be clear-cut and something that he has to do. And this would actually hit Isagi in a place that he didn't really understand that much at the time. And frankly, it's probably because it's the idea that, well, he's been doing this all his life, but it's never been by his choice. And Mark would even explain to him that that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just preparing him to make copious amounts of money once he does start, well, going into the national teams of Japan. At least that's the assumption, that he's going to be on the national team. And Isagi would say that that would be true. But at the same time, he doesn't need to go through all this. I mean, he could train and go somewhere else. Why should he fulfill his father's wishes and play for Japan? And Mark would think about this. That is true, kid. You could go wherever you want. I mean, in all reality, you could leave. You could leave, and as long as you keep up your training and be the best person you could be, at least in terms of a football player, you could technically go anywhere else. And Snuffy would make this very apparent, saying that a kid like him, the talent he has, and frankly, at the end of the day, the specimen he is, I mean, he can do amazing things, and he's going to do amazing things. And of course, at the end of the day, everything with all his training would be wrapped up. It would be wrapped up, and the main reason for it to be already over after a couple years of being gone is because Blue Lock is officially coming around. When Isagi would arrive back in Japan, the plane would land and he would walk out. And to make it clear, this is a private plane. A lot of money has been spent to Isagi himself. But he's come back from this journey, this excursion, a brand new person. Yeah, a completely brand new person. He not only is far better at football now, but at the same time, he's learned new things along the way. Everything that a father really should teach you, he learned from these amazing strikers and amazing football players. He didn't learn it from Igo. But still, there's one thing that Isagi doesn't 100% have that Igo hopes that Blue Lock will teach him. And that's having an ego and being an egoist. Yes, it might seem crazy. The son of Igo himself doesn't have an ego. But Jinpachi Igo knew that at the end of the day, he would be able to gain that ego in Blue Lock. That he would learn amazing things from various other strikers, football players first, and then he could become the egoist on top of that he knew his son could be. Isagi would finally see his father once again. It's been years, and when I mean years, it's been years on years and years. He would see him and all the bad emotions would rush back once again. But Ego would tell him that it's time. That Blue Lock is finally upon them. And that Blue Lock is truly going to be the next big thing for Japan. And that's going to make him the best striker in the world. Not just Japan, in the world. And Isagi would hear this, in a way, he would be excited. But in another way, he would kind of think this is ridiculous. He could be the best striker somewhere else if he so chooses to do so. His talent has been measured off the charts by many. And through his travels outside of Japan, many clubs have looked into him, been interested in him, and many countries actually would want him to leave Japan and go over there. They've seen promise in Isagi. They've seen promise in everything he's able to do. Not only is he a bigger dude, able to do the things that most strikers and smaller strikers can't do, he also has an insane mind for the game of football. But he'll enter Blue Lock at the wishes of his father, and he'll see what has to come. So a location is given to him, and he would arrive at some sort of announcement hall. When he would arrive, Ego would begin speaking to everybody, but Isagi wouldn't listen, only hearing the murmurs of what other people are thinking. He would look around to see who was there, seeing some of big stature and obvious strong physiques. Others not so much, smaller in stature, but Isagi would see some people and would think that he's heard about them. But nobody has heard about Isagi, at least for the most part in Japan. Many know him around the world, internationally, but in Japan, he's still kind of a giant question mark. Ego hasn't deemed him as his son, and since he hasn't played on any teams, he kind of is just a giant unknown, a big question mark. But eventually, Ego would finish up with his annoying speech, a speech that Isagi refuses to listen to, and when the gates would open up, he would be the first person to walk through. He would walk by his father, as his father would give him a glare of, now it's your time to show Japan what a striker is. But Isagi, in his mind, can only think about the first escape out of this. He doesn't even want to be here. The idea that he'll be able to go against strong strikers and great players is cool. But frankly, other than that, he doesn't really have that much of an interest in Blue Lock at all. I mean, come on, why would he? He doesn't have anywhere near an interest in Blue Lock as his father would. But still, he would walk through and then eventually arrive in his, structured area, being that of Team Z. He doesn't know anything in terms of what's going on in Blue Lock. I mean, that would kind of defeat the purpose. But he does know his father's mischievous ways. He has assumptions about Blue Lock and assumptions about what's going to happen. But for now, he'll keep those to himself. In terms of what's going to happen next, he gets on his uniform and meets everybody there. He is seen as the top person in that group, or at least the group that he's currently in the building with. But he can assume that these, groups are kind of a little bit construed. At the end of the day, he knows his father loves to lie, so this all could be a hoax in itself. But he speaks with everybody there, and it seems like everyone is excited, ramped up, and just flat out ready to go. And there's one person, though, that catches his eye, just specifically, especially for something he said while Ego was talking, or his father was talking. It's Kira. Kira, whoever this guy is, he thinks that this game of football can be played through teamwork alone. that everything is about the team. But soon he would find out exactly what Blue Lock is, and Isagi knows what Blue Lock is. But he waves it off, saying that maybe he'll get the chance, because when the first game would start, being that of a game of tag, they have 2 minutes and 16 seconds to actually hit somebody with the ball if they're it. The idea is there's no handballs, but there's no rules outside of that. You kick it at somebody, and if it hits them, they are it. And Isagi would get the ball kicked toward him, and he would just straight up gather the ball. He wouldn't get hit, and this ball would be a heat seeker, something that is pretty fast, but he would gather it easily, and he would just hold it there. I mean, Ego would be watching this, and he would be frustrated. What is he doing? What, is he an idiot? Is he really just going to allow himself to be eliminated on purpose? He's angry. The fact that Isagi is basically throwing a temper tantrum, which is ironic because that's exactly what Ego is doing at this moment. Isagi's just holding the ball and beginning to look around. He sees many people that are interesting. He sees one that's just waking up by the name of Bachira, another by the name of Kunigami, who's a big striker and seems to be a powerful one at that. Everybody though is standing there confused, as if Isagi's just analyzing everyone around him. But a little bit of Ego begins to shine. With the clock ticking down and only 30 seconds left, Isagi would finish his scan around the room and he would sigh. He would realize that as much as he would like to allow himself to get out right now, he just can't. I mean, even his own ego won't allow him to be eliminated to such chumps that are in front of him. He would kick the ball, and when he would do this, everybody felt like time was standing still. The ball he kicks, and his foot, when it strikes that ball, it's as if he shoots a rocket out of his leg, kicking it so hard toward one Kira and hits him directly in the face. Bachira would see this and would begin to laugh. He would see that Isagi is something interesting. It's not that he followed this on his own accord. It seems like he did this hesitantly, as if he didn't really want to actually win this match. And maybe that's something he'll question him about later on. But at the end of the day, the ball would spiral out of control and Kira would be unable to recover it in time, and Isagi would eliminate Kira. Kira would begin freaking out, but Isagi would tell him to shut his mouth, that he's not ready for what Blue Lock truly is. Blue Lock is to hone someone's ego, and even if he does have one that he's showing right now after being eliminated, it doesn't matter. He came here to prove that you didn't need an ego to play football. But what he's seeing right now, he assumes is just not true. You need some sort of ego. But even with that said, he wouldn't have made it that far anyways. Of course, Kira would be pissed by this, and he would even take a swing at Isagi just out of instinct, as if he's so mad and his ego's finally taking over, but Isagi would easily block it and throw him to the side and kick him toward the door, telling him that is not one single thing in this world that would allow him to get back to this place. He tells him that he did him a favor, that Blue Lock is just not for him, that it's time to lock off. As he says this, everyone stares at him. Lock off. They all think that's exactly what Ego said. Why does it feel as if this kid is so similar to Ego just in that little glimpse? But then their idea of this would fade away almost instantly after, because Isagi's personality would change so drastically. It was as if he didn't want to be like his father. So he would get small glimpses of it when certain things like this would even happen. But Ego would eventually come up on the screen and say that Kira is now gone. But with that said, there's more to come. There's now 11 of them, exactly enough to make one football team. And he explains further that they're going to be taking on other people or other groups very, very soon. So they're going to have to work together, but at the same time and on other occasions even betray each other. Isagi would ask how many matches there are, and Igo would say that it doesn't necessarily matter at this point, but there are 4 matches. And he explains the scoring breakdown, saying that the top 2 teams with the most wins will pass on through. But other than that, the number 1 striker, or the one who has the most goals from each team, will be allowed to go through even though their team didn't do the best. So it comes into play. Do you want to score the most goals, or do you want to go for wins? Isagi would shake his head. Of course, you're bringing up some sort of dilemma. Ridiculous. The TV would turn off, and everybody would look at him strangely and ask him, what does he mean by that? That, of course, as if he knew Igo would do that, and Isagi would wave them off, saying that it's not necessarily important. His morals are kind of getting in his way at the moment. He's having a big conflict. He could bomb out. He could straight up sabotage his team to the point that he just is allowed to leave, and he can leave entirely. But what happens if he does that? All of the dreams of the other players crash and burn with him. He shakes his head and he sighs. He wishes he didn't meet those other strikers. He wishes now that he didn't meet those other people. Those other people, Noel Noah, Ronaldo, Messi, they all believed in some form of teamwork. And they all believed in some sort of morality. Even to an extent, Mark Snuffy, the last person he spoke to, someone who he related to relatively greatly, he believed in some sort of morality as well, believed in that teamwork, believed in that communication and relationship with your teammates. He feels, or Isagi feels, that maybe he can't just crash and burn. And the first game would prove that, because the first goal would be easily made by one Bottle, seemingly the king of the field. But Isagi would allow him to score this goal, and he would see the faces of everyone around him, see that they are distraught, frustrated, and Isagi would more or less feel this within his core. Is he worse than everything and everyone if he just allows for this to happen? Isagi would think about this and then stop for a second. He would look around, looking toward Bachira, looking toward Kunigami, looking toward many others that are currently on that field. And he tells them that if they want to win, follow his lead. And they're confused. Many of them are. They're saying that no, they're going to get their own goals, and many others, they are very selfish about it. But Isagi says that they need to find the fine line between selfish football and teamwork football. Yes, all of them are strikers, but if they all fit a certain role and they begin to work together, they will dominate this team. And of course, they're skeptical about this, but Isagi says that if they allow him to take lead, he won't let Bato score another goal. And Bato would laugh at this, saying that there is no stopping him. Come on, what is he, some donkey? And everybody looks at Isagi once again and says that if Bato doesn't score another goal, at least until halftime, they'll listen to him. And Isagi says that until that point that Bato supposedly should be scoring a goal, they have to listen to him. They all finally give in to this idea, believing that Isagi is way over his head, but they don't know what he's truly capable of. So the first pass in is easy. Isagi gets the ball from Bachira and he would begin marching forward. It seems as if everybody kind of floods in its own way, but Isagi's able to easily break through the defense. And when I mean easily, I mean easily. He immediately looks for an outlet pass, seeing one Raichi sprinting down the field. Passing it easily over to him, Raichi looks for a goal. But it seems as if Raichi begins to get covered up by a massive figure by the name of Bato. Bato would cover him up as if he's playing defense, and Raichi, out of instincts it seems, would pass the ball. But it's not necessarily instincts. It's as if Isagi was screaming at him without even saying a word to pass it to him. It would be one pass and Isagi would score. It is now 1-1. Raichi would be confused. How did he get him to do that? How did he get him to pass the ball like that? And Isagi shakes his head. saying that it's teamwork and to not worry about it. He'll live up to his end of the bargain. And that's exactly what he would do. Bato would come charging forward, and Isagi would look at him. You are way too predictable, King. He would steal the ball, and he would immediately go bolting off, outlet passing to Kunigami, and Kunigami would shoot, scoring another goal, putting them up 2-1. Everybody's in complete shock. Every single last person. How? This guy, he was serious. He literally said that he would shut down one of their best players, if not the best player on their team, someone that looks like is unstoppable, someone that looks like that would be completely and utterly dominant. But Isagi, he makes him look like a joke. He makes him look like he's nothing, as if he's the bottom of the barrel. And soon, this would be extremely relevant information, because every time Bato would come in and try to do anything, he would get the ball stolen. Isagi would pass the ball around, and without the proper coordination though, it would become a struggle to score if he's not leading the forefront. And eventually people would realize that Isagi himself creates plays for other players. And it seems like he knows the field better than anybody could possibly even imagine. Ego was watching this, and he knows that his son is on a different level. Everything he did, everything he wanted out of him, this is great. This is amazing. Look at him go. It's so simple for him. The game of football is simple for him. And easy passes to one Gagamaru for an amazing goal, a leaping goal that leading into him getting him a header. An easy goal for him, an easy goal for Bachira soon to come, giving Bachira a one-on-one, and we all know how deadly of a combo that is. And the score would begin to get ran up past halftime, and then eventually toward the end of the game, the score would end up being a 8-1 domination. Isagi's team would dominate, and it wouldn't even be close. Bato would stand there in complete shock. How was he able to do all those things? He doesn't understand. How is he able to dominate such a way? Yes, he's a big dude. He might be actually almost the same size as Bato. He has pretty decent genetics, but he's probably, I would say, a little bit smaller than him. He had good genetics more for his mother's side, but still, he's definitely bigger than what he was in canon. With that said though, that's not even necessarily why he would even beat Bato. How is he even able to do such things? Bato just feels that maybe he's just too simplistic. Maybe he just doesn't understand. And Isagi at the end of the game would walk up to him, and he would say that Bato needs to open his eyes more, a lot more. That just because one thing isn't working over and over again, well, he'll have to find new things. There's an idea of a formula that would guarantee him goals, and of course, he believes that Bato has that. But if someone doesn't allow him in a certain area, a certain spot, that formula begins to get ripped to shreds and thrown into the fire. He needs to think about that, because there's far, far, far more things and more complex things in this game of football that he needs to be thinking about. Isagi would leave, and he just would give his advice to his best of his ability. And when he would arrive back and they would celebrate and more or less get all settled in, he would go to an area by himself, and he would get a call on a phone. He would look, and he would see that it's his father. It's a little cheap phone, something that he was able to sneak in on his father's request. And his father would explain to him certain things that he saw during the game. And he says that he's truly made a bunch of schmucks into an elite team. And it's something that he's excited to see more of. Isagi says that he's not doing this for him. He's doing it for them. At the end of the day, if he wasn't put in a team like this, he would just bomb out on purpose. He doesn't even want to be here. He doesn't need Blue Lock to get better, and he damn well doesn't need his father anymore. And Ego would tell him, that he did all of this for him. He did all of this to make Isagi the best striker in the world. But Isagi yells and said he did it for him, that he did it for himself. He wanted his son to be the best striker ever. He wanted to watch his son be the best striker ever. He did this for his own greed, his own glory. He didn't do it for his own son's success. He did it for himself. Isagi says once again that any chance he gets, he'll bomb out. He doesn't care. And Ego wants him to reconsider that this could truly give him more opportunities than he would even imagine. That he doesn't want to just jump into this bombing out idea. He doesn't want to just throw it all away. Isagi says that idea, the idea of bombing out, is because of Ego, is because of his lack of attention to Isagi. We're talking about a kid that's been training practically all his life, and part of that, a good chunk of it, was without his father, the same father that put him through an extreme regimen, and Isagi would be frustrated with it. He says that for now, he won't allow himself to bomb out. He just won't. He won't force his team into that situation, and he won't allow them to bomb out because of his actions. Isagi says that he'll make all of them the best players that he's ever seen in his life, and then he can choose from them. He can make his striker decision from them. And Ego says that they won't be good enough, and they won't be even close to what Isagi is. And Isagi shrugs, and he says that that's an issue he's going to have to figure out. But he'll give him the proper people to truly choose from. But other than that, that's the last favor he'll get from his son. He hangs up, and he would go back to everyone else. Nobody knowing about what just transpired, and nobody knowing about the conversation that just ensued. The next game would then happen. The second game would be almost the same as the first, just in the regard of domination. Isagi's team would win by a large margin, but Isagi would be able to read the field so easily, and there's a reason for that. He outclasses everybody here at this moment. But here's the thing. Isagi's goal is to make everybody on his team the best they possibly can. So he tries to evolve people like Kunigami, Bachira, Gagamaru, freaking Raichi. Anybody you can think of that is on that team, that's all he can think about, is hone their skills, see what their skills are, and hone them to the absolute best. Like he said, iron sharpens iron. So that's all he can think about. Give his father the choice of the best striker possible. And then after that, he'll leave. Whatever's next is to come, he'll leave. And Isagi would have this in mind entirely. But he would even think about someone else. Someone by the name of Nico. Nico is something amazing. He realizes this because Nico can see the field like he sees the field. And he would eventually even tell him this during one of the matches. During this second match, he would see that Nico would try to set up passes for one of the other players on his team. But he would tell Nico that sometimes you can't just let someone else shoot the goals for you. Sometimes you got to take it upon yourself to make your own goals, make yourself better, and that would lead to other people being that much better as well. And hearing this, Nico would be kind of taken back by it, but at the same time, he wouldn't even know what to say. I mean, they're kind of getting beat senseless in terms of the game. Like, this game's worse than the Bato game. I mean, at least Bato physically could somewhat keep up and just in the physicality realm could kind of stay in front of people. But other than that, there's nothing else to be said. Isagi is more or less dominating. He's showing exactly why he could be the best striker in Japan, but he wants to make his father feel as if there is no way his own son is going to stay here, and there's no way that he's going to have Isagi as the striker that he always wanted. Yes, that's the end of game 2. Domination would be the name of the game for that game. 12-0. And it would be simple enough. Isagi, all he wanted to do was make everyone else around him better, and it seems as if he was able to do just that. And That's all he can think about for game 3. But for now, they celebrate. They celebrate and they're all happy. But Ego is currently watching, and he is in his own head, thinking that his own son isn't going to stay in Blue Lock, that his own son is threatening a bombing out after everything he did. But he even talks to his assistant, asking where he went wrong. And she would bring up various reasons and various things that he did wrong. And Ego would sit there. My own son, huh? I really can't believe this. Maybe I can convince him otherwise. But I just don't know how. But we can come up with something. We need to come up with something. Because my son, well, he's truly the striker Japan deserves. And that is a wrap for What If Isagi Was Ego's Son Part 1. If you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. I appreciate all the support. I'm not sure if Part 2 of this will come out tomorrow, or I might do Part 1 of another series and then kind of switch back and forth between both series. I haven't decided just yet. But yeah, if you're watching this right now, you made it to the end of the video, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. Show some love. I know this is a little different than the ones I've been doing recently. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope y'all continue to enjoy these, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.